Hello there and welcome back. Today we talk about Roland TR-8s, but I guess in a different way. So if you know me, you know that I'm a big fan of the original TR-8. I use it extensively, mostly for the live purposes, because I think of all the drum machine out there, and by now there's so many good stuff. That one is one of the most immediate, simple, good sounding tool that you can have. Yes, it's digital. When it came out, a lot of people were complaining about that, but I owned, and I still own, a lot of Roland original stuff, and that one sounds pretty great. Actually, it sounds great to me. It had the fact that has this slider on front, and the TR-8s still have a same kind of form factor, so it was really convenient for live performances. That one has a more limited palette of sound. It didn't have sample, but nonetheless had the most iconic Roland sound. So that's what I wanted, that's what I needed, and that was perfect. So a few weeks ago, Roland sent me this one to test. I never bought it before because honestly I thought I am covered in the drum machine territory, and I have so many. But I have to say that after a few days I realized how they really improved on the original product. Not only that, a new firmware come out, and this new firmware added the probability on the triggers, on the steps, and that's a huge thing. What you're hearing now is a sort of generative ambient composition. Is all made using both that feature and the other feature that is the FM synthesis. So I thought right away, how can I use this in a different way? And this composition came out. And if you're interested, I won't go in the detail on how I created this, but I did a full step-by-step tutorial on my Patreon, where you can actually see how I create all of this. And I'm gonna also add the downloadable backup so you can have it. That said, that will happen next week though. That said, before going on and just have my opinion on this TR-8s, some way you can support me. You can subscribe to this page, you can share the content, you can buy from the affiliate link down below, and you can become a Patreon member. On Patreon, as I just mentioned, there's a lot of more exclusive content, in-depth tutorial, and some goodies like project to download, full Ableton project where you can mix or remix stuff. So it's gonna be fun. And also you can be in touch with me and do one-on-one session if you want. That said, let's go back. So let's first discuss what you are hearing, because I'm having a lot of fun. I'm creating different kits using this sort of technique. So I'm getting some help here from the Nightsky and the Microcosm, but by itself it sounds pretty nice already. So these are, let's play the instrument that I have. I have 7 FM synthesis instrument, which I tuned, so it's basically the same instrument that I create in the machine. I really recommend you to use the editor, because with the editor everything is super simple and fast, and all you can see every parameter that you can control. So I copied this first instrument in the first 7 tracks, and then I tuned it with the tune thing here until I created a scale. Let me remove also all the effect. And then I use the control to add this filter that get distorted. You can assign this control knob to a lot of parameters. So in another setup that I show you, I use this for panning all of these sounds around, and that's pretty cool because it creates this stereo image that is pretty nice. And then also you can play with the decay. So these are my scale. And then I have 4 other tracks here. It's still a 5th chord made with the FM. And my idea is to use all of these in a generative and random way. So what I did, I go in the pattern rack, and for each track I put down trig, and for each trig I put a different probability. Also, each track has a different length. So for example, this first track has a full 16 step, but the snare drum has a 15 step, this one a full 16, this 15. So why this? And here different 13, 14, and 5, 15. This is because once you start and play, they're gonna be it will always cycle and phase in and out. So whatever it happen will be in the range of the generative music, because you can't really after a while control when that track will reset and start over. And that to me is super interesting and fun, especially when you create a patch like this where all the instruments are in tune with each other. So let's check this first big thing. There's few big things that is an improvement over the TR-8. First, TR-8, you couldn't decide the length per step. That to me was the very big thing that the only issue really that I had with that machine. You can decide the step length for per pattern, but not per track. That was really limiting, especially if you do rhythmical stuff in the techno realm. You want to have different pattern length. So I'll play some ambient stuff in the meantime. So that was the first issue. The second thing is, of course, you don't have the probability on trigger. How you set up a probability trigger. So let's just take the bass drum. So whenever you place down trigger, you have different way to do that. If you just place it, it's 100% trigger. If you press shift, you can actually use a weak trigger, as you can hear, and you can play with that with accent, and that you can also create variation. But if you hold the trigger, and you can hold as many as you want actually, so let's, for example, hold 3 of them, here it will appear the trigger page where you can decide different parameter of that. So you move around that with copy and utility. So you can decide the tune, decay, control, the velocity of it, the probability, here it is, and the sub probability. So probability, you just rotate and it goes from 100% when there's nothing happening to 0%. The sub probability, on the other end, if you activate it, the step become yellow, and then it might trigger a sort of ratcheting another sub trig that you can also set here with the sub. This is another thing that the original TR-8 didn't have. So I did that for all the track. When you place everything down, you have another way to decide the probability, the global probability. To do that, you do shift pattern select, so you go in the pattern setting, and there's the master probability, in which you can decide the percentage on which that probability you set happens. So let's say you put a 10% probability that a trigger happen, and then you put the master probability at plus 90, means that that will happen 100% of the time. On the other hand, if you put a lower probability, higher probability, and then you lower it because you can go in the minus percentage, you remove globally from all the steps the probability that happens. So it's a concept that at the beginning I didn't really understand. I thought that it could happen with any single trig, but this happens only with trigs that already has a probability set. So it basically changes globally the probability for every trigger in your machine. I hope that Roland will change something. I would love to have master probability in which happen, so you don't have to set for each trig, because for composition like this, for example, I would like to just put down a lot of trigs and then do a master chance, maybe 1-3%, and then that will apply to everything. And so hope Roland will change that. That would be great. There's another cool thing. Now I am in variation A. If I go in variation B, I'll show you that. You can create a random pattern. So for example, to do that, you do pattern select, sample, and now you have a random pattern. And here it is. That's pretty cool to create random things. So for example, if now I could decide for all of this step to have a master probability, that would be amazing, because I can keep evolving my composition in a cool way. But as you hear, it sounds pretty great already. You can add reverb to each track. The cool things here is very simple to do descend, because you hold the instrument and then you move the level up and down. In that way, you... why everything died now? Oh, here it is. In that way, you have descend and return as you want. And then this controls the master level of the reverb. Same for the delay. You just hold the instrument and then set descend. And then, boom. There's different reverbs and delay. They're pretty nice sounding. So in this case, I have a plate. And in this other one is a digital delay, I think. There's many. They're pretty useful, and it's very fun to work with them. You can also add effects per track. These things weren't available in the TR-8s. So that's about it for how I created these things. I forgot there's a master effect. In this case, I put tape simulator, and as you can hear, when I had there's some compression, there's some tape hiss and noise, and if I push this, I have the warbliness. You can decide what the control does. So already now you understand that the machine has a lot of more possibility than the original one. Of course, there's one I would call it drawbacks, but not really. There's more, how you call it, screen diving that you have to do. It's not terrible, because once you understand how it works, it's really simple to get there. The only things that is a little more complex to do on the machine, and I find it way funnier and easier to do, is the sound design that is better to be made on the editor, but you have access to all control in the machine. So I'll show you now some other pattern and kit that I made only using the machine. Anyway, the new things that of course has to be mentioned is that the FM synthesis engine has been added. What you hear so far is all made by FM machine. So these add a lot of possibility for tonal stuff and atonal stuff, and also, of course, all the kind of FM drum that you are aware of, I think. So let's hear something. When I got it, I downloaded a backup, because what I always like to do is wipe everything and start from scratch. You can find empty backup, and clean everything. I like to do that, so I'm forced to learn the machine. So the first things I did, actually, I create an 808 kit, because it's the things that I always use. And this is the 808. You are no, there's a. It used the ACB sampling technology, so it sounds pretty great to me. And you know, first things I want to have, because I know that I will use it, is an 808 machine. With this one, it will put me in a better situation, because now has a lot of new stuff rather than the TR-8. Besides, though, also aesthetically, this is way more pleasing. I really like it. If you want to create a pattern from scratch, just to give you an idea, you can link pattern to track. I'm doing that in this moment. So for each pattern, pattern to a kit, if I load a pattern, a kit will be loaded as well. So say I load an empty pattern, this one, now there's nothing because no kit has been created. I can load any kit. So let's create a random pattern again. So this is the default that now has some sample that I put, but let's put one different kit. Again, the 808, for example. And this is how it sounds, but say you want to change the kit or the instrument. Let's go in the bass drum. You just press the instrument button, and here you have all the possibilities. So for example, this is the 808, different 808, long, 909, all the other P stand for preset, so it's the sound that comes with the TR-8, and basically use their ACB sampling technique, so basically their proprietary thing. When it's F is FM, and here it is. These are new things added. And then you have the sample. These are all sample.com, and in the end you have also the things that I imported. You can use Shift to go faster, so you see all the possibilities, scale, synth, chord, and should be, I don't know where is the user, because I use the yeah, probably it's on sample for sure. It has to be there. Sample edit. This is no, I won't go there because I didn't use yet the machine to do that. Again, it's easier on the editor. But anyway, you can load everything, you can load a sample, and it doesn't have to be, of course, that the BD has a bass drum here. You can put whatever you want. Then it's mislabeled, whatever. But you can change the color for each track. So if you color code, for example, if you change the kit and I put the mallet, ambient mallet, as I called it, that I just create, I color labeled them, so I know which one is what. All right, on the FM side, or any other things, whenever you load an instrument, let's change this one again. So let's load the 808 kit again. Well, let's change pattern actually, otherwise I make a mess. And now let's load an FM, whatever instrument. Here is import, user import. Here it is. That's where I have all the stuff. It comes, that is before the other. That's why I couldn't find it. So here, for example, these are things that I imported, my sample. But let's see the FM, what adds to the plate. So we can go instrument, shift, bass drum. Let's pick an FM when the F appears. Here it is. Oh, what happened? What happened? Oh, future bus. What the hell? Sorry, because to see, I cannot really see the screen to film, otherwise you will see my head. Here it is. This is the, if you want to change and edit the instrument, you press Shift Instrument, and now you are in the page where you can do your sound design. And I mean, we won't do anything like that, but and here it is. So here you can just create your sound and blah blah blah. I create another. This is a kit that I create from scratch. It sounds pretty great. Pretty cool running the rhythm through this. Let's hear another pattern that I create. This is the one we started with. This is a kit that I made using machine drum sample that I create. Isn't it cool with the night sky like that? Huh. Let's hear another. And this is another that I just create today with other mallet percussion with FM. Let's hear. And this sounds very cool with the effects. Here it is. I noticed that it's very cool if I go full reverb, no dry, and then have the microcosm doing its thing. This is great to record soundscape, ambient soundscape. So one cool thing that you can do, and one thing that I would recommend to try if you have these, is like you can load different chord set on the different slider, and then you can actually create progression. For example, this could be the this could be like the notes, the leads, whatever it is, and then you tune different chords, one and one, like you would use with a 4-track cassette technique that I see at. So that's something that I will probably do for a next video, using this as a performative tool where you just run all your tracks and then move the fader and arrange these tracks by yourself. So I hope there's so many amazing other tutorial about this. I didn't want to do a tutorial because at this point it's not a new instrument, it's there since a while, so you can find all the possible information that you want. I wanted to just show how versatile it is and how it's fun sometimes to take something that is supposed to be a drum machine and reverse it into something else. And this FM synthesis and the probability and the mixing capability of it, plus the effects, really opens up a lot of possibility. As you hear now, this is things that, you know, I usually do this kind of stuff with the modular synth, but right now I can do with this, and then I can play with my Nightsky, the Microcosm. And by the way, a lot of people ask me, I got obsessed with the Nightsky. Yes, I like it. The things that set these things apart is this: having the fact that you can control the dry signal and the reverb separately, Man, it's the best. I hope a lot of more builder will think about that, because for live performance this is super good. So that's why this is heavily featured. Works really well with the Microcosm, because the Microcosm does its thing and you never really know too much, but it sounds great. So it's pretty great now hearing this beautiful soundscape. And then you can decide, of course, let's make it simpler and let's just play some notes. So it will become like more rarefied. And then when you want, you push back other stuff. And you can play with panning and whatnot. So, final consideration about the TR-8s. I really like it. It involved more menu diving that I'm used to, so that's why using the editor saved me from having to learn a lot of more stuff. But again, it's super simple. You choose your instrument, you edit your instrument. It's very well laid out. And definitely at this point it's just like made the TR-8 a little outdated, because that is still very simple, because to choose instrument you are limited, so it's super fast. But this one, if you do a little preparation and you create your kits, you have way more possibility, because you can also decide the send and return per track. You can work with the EQing them, make it sound great. Also it has the you can process the stuff coming from outside, so that was something that was in the original too. But you can have these and another synth and you're ready to rock. So yeah, I really like it. Thanks Roland for sending me. I will definitely use this a lot, and I'm thinking it would be very fun to do a full live set with just these end effects, like are you hearing now, and then come into and out of rhythm and stuff and whatnot. Well, again, thanks for watching. Please support if you can, just by subscribing or sharing this content. That would mean a lot to me. And I'll see you next week. Ciao.